to Cody Talks NFL, presented by Blitzalytics.com. And here's your host, Cody Manning.
And welcome into Cody Talks NFL. How are you guys doing? We reached week 5 of the NFL season. I know we've had a couple hiccups over the past week or so with everything that's going on with the pandemic. I'm not going to really get too deep into that. Everybody's probably nauseated hearing about it. You probably already know about the game shifts. You probably already know what's going on in Tennessee. So I'm not going to go too deep dive into that episode. Into that, what's going on there. So for this episode, how this is going to work today, guys, as always, I'm going to recap last night's Thursday night football game between the Buccaneers and the Chicago Bears. I'm going to give out my Blitzalytics prospect encyclopedia player of Thursday night football. And then I will go ahead and preview all of the week 5 games. And then other than that, guys, keep in mind, Green Bay Packers and the Detroit Lions are on a bye. No major news with either of those teams that have came out throughout the week. So just keep an eye on the team heading into next week. I'll have any updates on next Friday's episode for the Packers and the Lions. I'm going to go ahead and get this started, though. I'm going to start with the Thursday night game. The Bucs lost to the Bears, and that was a big surprise. Bears won 20-19. I know myself thought the Bucs were going to win. Our Blitzalytics Pick'em contest, nobody picked the Bears to win. So even though they were 3-1, they got the big upset, and now they're a 4-1 record. Bucs are now sitting at a 3-2 record, and they got the Packers coming up next week. So that's a big. They're already seeing a big potential problem early in the season if they get to a 500 record. Let's just start with the Bucs side, since they were in the losing side. A little injury note: Vita Vea, he potentially suffered a season-ending ankle injury. It's probably is a season-ending ankle injury, but they are waiting for the MRI to confirm that. That is a huge loss for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I don't know how they're going to well, I know they still got Ndamukong Suh and the linebackers, but I don't know how they're gonna. You can't replace Vita Vea. He was such a dominant force in the middle of that defense on the defensive line. He was taking up space, so linebackers like Levante David and Devin White can run all over the place, and that also allows players like Ndamukong Suh, who's a great player himself, but he can take one-on-one matchups and dominate and create turnovers like he has this year. So that is a big loss, and this is something I was worried about this Buccaneers team is if injuries happen, do they have enough depth? And we kind of saw that last night. The offense was out of sync. There was too much inconsistency from Tampa's offense because Tom Brady's working with guys that he wasn't working with much this summer. Think about it. In the summer when those videos were coming out, he was working with guys like Chris Godwin, a healthier Mike Evans, an O.J. Howard, players like that. And then last night we're seeing like a Tyler Johnson and a Tanner Hudson, or he's going to have Cyril Grayson, like all these random guys that he has to throw to. So that's why you saw a lot of missed throws and missed opportunities by Brady. The offensive line had an up and down performance, looked pretty solid against that Bears front in the first half, and then Khalil Mack and Robert Quinn basically kind of took over and was getting after Brady for the entire second half. How I view this Bucs team going forward, they still got the talent, right? They'll get Godwin back, they'll get Leonard Fournette back. I think the offense will eventually get back and gel and get better as the season goes along, but that Vita Vea injury, I think, is going to hurt them. They don't have much depth on the defensive line in Tampa, so they're going to need some other guys, maybe like a Khalil Davis, somebody like that will have to step up in his absence and make some plays. So we're going to have to see how this Bucs team handles the adversity that they're seeing already early in the season. The Bears, they proved to 4-1. Now, with that being said, James Daniel, their second round pick from last year, who's been pretty good for them as the offensive guard, he suffered a pec injury. The team fears his season is going to be done. That is a huge loss for that. All right, okay, I guess maybe an average to an above. I would say an average offensive line. He is probably one of their better offensive linemen, if not the best one. And we saw that right away. Once he got hurt and the backup guy came in, Vita Vea blew past him and sacked Nick Foles. fumbles. So that's going to hurt their chances of improving the running game, that they already struggle to run the ball. That offense is kind of ugly to watch. Nick Foles at the beginning was looking awful. He missed Mooney on a big bomb touchdown opportunity. Then he kind of got hot towards the end of the second quarter. And then they just found ways to stay in the game and made their defense basically won them the game. How I view the Bears is they have a pretty good defense. I wouldn't say it's amazing. I wouldn't say it's great. They have a pretty good defense. They have playmakers on all three levels of the ball between obviously Khalil Mack, Akeem Hicks, Robert Quinn up front, and then they got Roquan Smith in the middle, and then they got guys in the secondary like a Kyle Fuller, Eddie Jackson, and then Jalen Johnson. He had an up and down night last night, when you go against a good receiver like Mike Evans, but he showed he's been very solid for that defense throughout the first month. How I view the Bears is their defense is always going to keep them within games. And if their defense can hold the opponent to less than 20 points like they did last night, all that offense needs to do is get to that 20-point mark like they did last night. They'll probably win most games. They're 4-1, but it's hard to officially believe in them. But we got to take them serious, when they beat the Bucs and when they're sitting at a 4-1 record after Week 5. Well, to cap this off, the Blitzalytics Prospect Encyclopedia Player of Thursday Night Football. Man, I didn't know who I was going to pick because I didn't know who was going to win the game. I mean, if you have the book and you read up on the players like I told you to do when I advertised it on the Fantasy Voyage, you probably saw a lot of names. You saw guys like Tyler Johnson make plays last night, Tanner Hudson make plays, Antoine Winfield Jr., Mooney was out there making plays, Anthony Miller. There's quite a handful. It's Jalen Johnson that were in the book. I decided to go with the winning team. I decided to go with he didn't have a crazy stat line, but I want to give kudos to the kid because I was kind of somewhat doubting him in his second year. But David Montgomery for the Bears, last night he had 69 yards and 1 touchdown. He was crucial in the second half as far as helping them move the chains. Touchdown, and then also too, he's just really good in pass protection. He's the number 2 prospect for the Bears in the Prospect Encyclopedia. David Connors did do the Bears section in the book. As always, I always read the overview part. Remember, he's a number 2 prospect, so there's a strength and weaknesses, but I'll let you buy the book so you can read about that. But David writes, Montgomery could serve as a 3-down back, but is probably best as a part of a committee with a change of pace player like Tariq Cohen, which they were doing. Even though Montgomery had limited production in 2019, the Bears didn't add anyone to their running back room, and Montgomery should see a significant amount of Chicago snaps in 2020. Pretty much called that spot on. Now they don't have Tariq Cohen, so he's even having a larger role. They have not added anybody in that backfield, so that is his backfield. So David Montgomery is my Blitzalytics prospect encyclopedia player of Thursday Night Football. Again, look at this, guys. It's full of information. Top 22 players from the last 3 draft classes for all 32 teams. Those players to qualify to get in this book had to have less than 12 career regular season starts or less. I thought David Montgomery probably did, but then I read his section. He only had 8 starts last year. It's only $35 to get that hard copy. Go to blitzalytics.com/shop to order it. But you can also get the PDF for just $15, or you can order the individual team PDF for $5. So go to blitzalytics.com/shop right now to get that in your hands. I'm gonna go ahead and get on with the Week 5 previews. I'm gonna start with the Sunday 1 p.m. games. The Los Angeles Rams are traveling out to the Washington football team. I mentioned this to Rob right before we go live. I'm pretty sure the Rams away games so far in the season have all been on the East Coast at the 1 p.m. slot time. It's like they're begging teams to beat the Rams, but they're finding ways to win. One little news note, I know a lot of people saw about this, but just in case you didn't, Dwayne Haskins, their 2019 first-round pick that they thought would be their, well, the jury's still out. He's still a young kid, but the player that they thought would be their franchise quarterback for the next decade, they did go ahead and bench him. It's been reported he'll be a healthy scratch this weekend. Kyle Allen will get the start, and Alex Smith is quarterback too. I guess it's kind of weird. Like Ron Rivera made a quote talking about which is the truth. He says there's an opportunity for us to win the division, which it's kind of an indictment on Haskins because like that means you started Haskins before the season started when everybody was 0-0. So you kind of thought you weren't going to win the division, and now you have an opportunity. So you're switching to Kyle Allen. I don't know. Situation's weird. I
It's
think maybe
super fun, man. And in drama high school news, I just want to let you know it looks like they've both unfollowed each other across social media platforms. So, like you were talking about potential trade, maybe because, like I said, they've both unfollowed each other. It's a mutual
really.
breakup at this point.
Wow. Interesting. Okay. So yeah, watch Dwayne Haskins. I don't know where he could go right now. That's kind of the NFL is weird with the quarterbacks now that there's so many quarterbacks, you can't really pinpoint a place he would go, especially when you got, Trevor Lawrence in the upcoming class. So I'm not sure who's going to maybe want to take a swing on him, but you never know. Maybe like a Pittsburgh Steelers, maybe somebody like that has a veteran quarterback that he can sit behind if him and the Washington are going to mutually part ways here in the coming weeks. I'm going to go ahead, though, and get into these injury reports. The Rams, a couple players that have not practiced this week. Bobby Evans with a shoulder and Micah Kaiser with a groin. And then Kenny Young has been limited with a knee, and Troy Hill with an ankle. And these players have not practiced for the football team. Wes Schweitzer with an elbow, Steven Sims Jr. with a toe, Greg Stroman with a foot, and these following players have been limited: Dontrell Inman with a foot, Terry McLaurin with a thigh, and then Chase Young is back to practice with a groin, so he could potentially return to help that defense this week. How is this game going to go? I mean, you got Kyle Allen at quarterback. I don't really see much of an improvement with him in there. Maybe he does know the offensive better. Maybe he can make reads better than Dwayne Haskins to help move the ball. But I still don't think the Washington football team has enough juice on that offense, no matter who's at the quarterback position right now. I love me some Antonio Gibson, but that offensive line in front of him is pretty awful, especially when you're going against a guy like Aaron Donald. I think Aaron Donald's going to blow up that offensive line all day, and he's going to be in Kyle Allen's face all day, which will lead to incompletions, sacks, and potential turnovers. They don't really have a receiving threat outside of scary Terry McLaurin. He's the only proven commodity in the Washington receiver room. He's banged up heading into this matchup. And then the opposite side for the Rams is they got a guy like Jalen Ramsey who can stick on a scary Terry McLaurin. So I think they're going to be one-on-one. He's going to shadow McLaurin all day. That's going to make things difficult on this football team's offense to be able to move the ball. I really don't see them putting up much points against the Rams this week. Switching sides of the ball, if they get Chase Young back, the football team, that's going to help their defense out. Overall, they got a pretty solid defense. I just think their offense doesn't help them out. So they do have their times where they get maybe tired. Maybe they're on the field too much throughout the game. And then, the Rams offense, they're just with Sean McVay's retooled and refocused the offense. He's got plenty of weapons to move the ball around. So I think he's going to make that Washington football team guess on what they're doing. They're going to have opportunities to move the ball, get field goals, get touchdowns. I think this is going to be a pretty easy win, honestly, for the Rams. I think they find a way to win by even if you can go with the 1 p.m. slot time, maybe they do start off slow, but maybe also too, I'm pretty sure this is like their third away game at this time. So they're probably used to it at this point. So I think they can actually get going to start the game and jump out to an early lead. And if they can jump out to an early lead, I really don't trust Kyle Allen in a comeback mode. I think if he's in a comeback mode, that's going to lean towards more turnovers for the offense. So Rams win by 10. I think the Rams should be able to win this. Let's say like a 27-17 type of win for the Rams. I'm going to go ahead and keep this moving. The next game I will talk about is the Philadelphia Eagles. They are traveling out to Pittsburgh to face the Steelers. There is no news, but as far as injuries, I'll start with the Eagles. They had to place a couple guys on IR. They placed TJ Edwards and Rudy Ford on IR. As I say always every week, and I apologize to my weekly listeners, but just in case we have a new listener in this week, if an NFL team does place a guy on IR, that doesn't mean his season's done. If his season's done, I will say that. They have the potential to return in 3 weeks if they are healthy. Now, let's go ahead and move on with the injury reports for the Eagles. These two players have not practiced. Alshon Jeffrey is dealing with an illness, and Avonte Maddox is dealing with an ankle injury. Following 3 players have been limited for Philadelphia: Deshaun Jackson with a hamstring, Lane Johnson with an ankle, and Rodney McLeod with a hamstring. And then these 3 players have not practiced for the Steelers. TJ Watt is dealing with a knee injury. Derek Watt is dealing with a hamstring injury, and Marcus Allen is dealing with a foot. Now, that TJ Watt injury, that would be that the Steelers have enough to be a good defense without him, but that does hurt them. But I will say this, TJ Watt is supposed to be on the Pat McAfee show today. So personally, for me, if a player was going to be injured and going to miss the game, I don't think the team would allow him to go on an interview on a show. That's just my personal opinion. Maybe Pat Mack might ask him a question about his playing and his availability today. It might be like more of a maintenance type of issue for TJ Watt. So, yeah, let's go ahead and get into this, though. Where do I want to start? Since I'm already talking about TJ Watt, let's talk about the defense. The Steelers do have a great defense. They're coming off an early bye, an unexpected bye. They're probably going to be angry. They're probably going to want to come out swinging and get this victory because they got a long 13-game stretch ahead of them. So I'm sure they're going to want to be in and out of this game and get a win. Everybody knows how great the defense is. The Philadelphia offense, I know they squeezed out a win against a banged-up 49ers defense, but now they're going against a healthy defense coming off a bye, and Philadelphia still has a lot of work to do on that offense. That offensive line is basically 3 to 4/5 of that offensive line. Yeah, I think Jason Kelce and Lane Johnson are the only remaining guys that were supposed to be starters heading into the season. And then you're going against a TJ Watt, a Cameron Hayward, a Bud Dupree. I think it's Stephon Tuitt still there. So a great defensive front, Devin Bush. They got a great secondary. So I think they're going to get after Carson Wentz throughout the day. Now, if Deshaun Jackson plays and Alshon Jeffrey plays, that should actually help out Carson Wentz. That should maybe give him more options to pass the ball. So maybe they can move the ball on them. I think the Eagles will have some opportunities to put up points on Sunday. I think they will get maybe 2 to 3 touchdowns on the Steelers defense. I just don't know if that's going to be enough to win the game. Switching sides of the ball, Pittsburgh, fully healthy, right? We don't see Deontay Johnson on the report. We don't see Juju Smith-Schuster on the report. We don't even see James Conner on the report. So the offense is completely healthy. They're going to run the ball. Eagles already have a porous linebacker group, and they're going to be missing TJ Edwards this week. So I think James Conner is going to have a good day. I think they're going to spread the ball throughout the air. I think the Eagles' pass defense is still trying to figure things out, even with the addition of Darius Slay. So I think Big Ben's going to have a good game. I think he ends up tossing at least maybe 3 to 4 touchdowns. Maybe he doesn't get that touchdown mark because – there's a lot of goal line touchdown runs for James Conner or like a Benny Snell. I do think the Steelers are going to win. I'm going to go ahead and say this. If Alshon plays, Deshaun Jackson plays, I think the Eagles might keep it interesting, though. But I think they keep it interesting for about 3 to 4 quarters, and then the Steelers pull away with the win at the end. So with that being said, I think that I'll pick Pittsburgh to win like a 31-24 type of win. So I do apologize for my man Jay that always tunes in for us. He's an Eagles fan, but he's going against his cousins, Steelers, and he might have to be the upset one when they have Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner this winter. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep it moving. Guys, we got Arizona traveling out to New York to face the Jets. Now, I did see this literally right before me and Rob went online. There is a potential positive test for the New York Jets, so they sent everybody home today. Now, I think they have to retest it to confirm that it's a positive test. I don't know if that's going to impact the game because, again, guys, the Jets are at home. I will go back and point to week 2 or 3 when Atlanta had a home game and A.J. Terrell was tested positive and he had to be placed on the list, and they still played the game and nothing ever came out of that. So let's just hope that is the issue for that game. And if it is a confirmed positive, that it's just that one isolated player, and we can get this game played this week, and they don't have to push it back a day or two. Other than that, some one news item on the Cardinals: Prince Amuka Kamara, longtime NFL cornerback. He is currently visiting the Arizona Cardinals. He's going through all the protocols, but he is set to sign with the team. So he won't play this week, but he'll probably be on the roster by next week for the Cardinals. Let's go ahead and get into the injuries for the matchup, though. These following three players have not practiced: Daryl Daniels with a thigh, Devin Kennard with a calf, and Jordan Phillips with an illness. And these two players have been limited this week: Chris Banjo with a hamstring and Dre Kirkpatrick with a calf. On the Jets front, it already came out on Wednesday that Sam Darnold he's going to miss this game. So yeah, somehow the elite, I'm joking when I say that, Joe Flacco is going to start. So whenever all these NFL fans thought that Joe Flacco was out of our lives, he is back. Right, he's back again. He's doing the Undertaker gif on everybody. And then let's go ahead with the rest of these injuries. Mekhi Becton hasn't practiced with a shoulder. Rashad Perryman with an ankle. These following players have been limited. Bless Austin with a calf. Jordan Jenkins with a shoulder and calf. Ashton Davis with a groin. Chris Hogan with a ribs and knee. And then John Franklin Myers with a foot. This seems like a perfect bounce back game. A get right type of game for the Arizona Cardinals. Now, this is a 1 p.m. slot time. I always bring that up, and this really showed last week, right? Like the Arizona Cardinals played in Carolina, and that's why I picked the Panthers, because this Arizona Cardinals is a young team. It's coached by a young coach, so they're still kind of learning things, learning how to play on a West Coast time at the 1 p.m. time. So you kind of saw that last week when the Cardinals got off to a very slow start against the Panthers. But this Jets team is so bad, I don't think it matters if they start off slow. Even if they are lackadaisical in the first or second quarter, I think at some point that Kyler Murray and that Cardinals offense will go off against that porous Jets defense. I really don't expect this to be a game. Like I said, maybe it's a game in the first half because of a slow start time for the Arizona Cardinals. But I think Kyler Murray goes off. This is a perfect game for DeAndre Hopkins to have a career game. And then the defense, the Cardinals defense, if Mekhi Becton's out, Chandler Jones is going to chase Joe Flacco's a statue, so he doesn't have to get by the backup left tackle, and he's going to get sacks all day. So I really don't see much movement out of the Jets offense with Joe Flacco running the quarterback position, because as we saw in the last Jets game, Sam Darnold basically kept drives alive with his feet, and that's one thing Joe Flacco doesn't have. So I think there's going to be a lot of 3-and-outs for the Jets offense on Sunday. I think the Cardinals handle business. They should honestly win by 2 touchdowns. I'll even give credit to the Jets, and maybe they find a way to get a couple touchdowns on Sunday. I'll say the Cardinals win 31-17 against New York. Now let's keep this moving. We got the Las Vegas Raiders traveling out to the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Raiders are entering this matchup pretty banged up against the last year's Super Bowl champs. A couple players have not practiced. Malik Collins with a shoulder and illness. Brian Edwards with a foot and ankle. Now let's take a look at the guys that have been limited. This is a number of players. Trent Brown with a calf, Rico Gafford with a hamstring, LaMarcus Joyner with a rib, Nick Kwiatkowski with a pectoral. I swear I'm probably butchering that guy's name every week. Nevin Lawson with an ankle, Keyshawn Nixon with a hamstring, Darren Waller with a knee, and then Sam Young with a groin and a knee injury. And then you look at the Chiefs side, Mike Dana. He has not practiced with a hamstring. So the Chiefs are entering this matchup pretty banged up. Not banged up. The Chiefs are entering this matchup pretty healthy. They got Patrick Mahomes. That's all I got to say, right? No, but they got Patrick Mahomes. They got CEH. I mean, I just don't know how you can stop this offense. We saw what the Patriots did. They gave a blueprint of how you can maybe contain, how you can maybe slow down the KC offense. But at the end of the day, not all 31 teams are Bill Belichick. You're right. Not all 31 teams have his mind, or have the capability of lifting guys to play outside their level on defense. The Raiders defense is still working on a lot of things. They're giving up a lot of yards on the ground. They are suspect to give up a lot of plays through the air. So I think Tyreek Hill is going to go off against this defense. Maybe McCole Hardman gets a bomb touchdown. I think it's going to be a field day for Patrick Mahomes, especially since he is playing at home. And then switching sides of the ball, the Chiefs defense, they're getting Chris Jones. He's not back on he's not on the injury report, so Chris Jones should be back in the lineup. So him and Frank Clark will have to do their best against this very good Las Vegas offensive line, and that's I think where this key is. Right? Let me before I just go ahead and crap fully on the Raiders, what would be their blueprint to beat this Chiefs team? It's that young kid, number 28, Josh Jacobs, in that offensive line. If they can completely dominate the trenches against the Chiefs defense and they can get the 4 to 6 yards per carry, continue to get first downs, if Derek Carr can do what he does best, which is his accuracy and short to intermediate throws and just nickel and dime the defense all day while Josh Jacobs gets the rock going on the ground, and they can control the clock. And then when the KC offense is on the field, if they can just hold them to field goals, if they can just maybe get a turnover, that's the only way I could see the Raiders winning is ball control, clock control, and the defense taking advantage of opportunities if the KC offense presents them opportunities to get those turnovers, to get 3 and outs, to hold them to field goals. So with that being said, it's hard. I think I said this last week. I'm not going to pick against the Chiefs until somebody beats them. So, and the Chiefs are at home. The Chiefs have fans at their game. We hear it every week. It doesn't matter if they have 500 fans at that game. That crowd will always be loud. So I think the Chiefs honestly win this game pretty easily. But I'll say this, though. AFC, it's a divisional matchup. I'll say that the Raiders are within a score of the game. I think it might be one of those games where it's like it feels like the Raiders are always there, but they just can't tie it throughout the game. So I'll give the Chiefs a win, like a 31. I'll say a 35 to 24. That's too big of a score. I'll say 35 to 28 win for the Kansas City Chiefs. And then let me go ahead and move on to this next matchup. We had the Jaguars traveling to the Texans. Now, I'm not going to go too deep into this, guys, because this happened the news broke out on Monday. If you tuned into the football happy hour, I gave my fair share of an opinion on this. But for those that might have been living underneath a rock or just living in 2020, so it's very plausible you just had a lot of stuff coming up this week and you might have missed this. But Houston did fire Bill O'Brien. Finally this week. I'm not going to go too much into this. Like I said, I gave my fair rant on the football happy hour. So just go to our YouTube page or the Blitzlytics podcast network. Listen to that episode. It was the overtime part. So just hear my thoughts on this whole situation. But Romeo Crennel, he is the interim head coach. And then Nick Easterby is running the football operations for the rest of the season. I really don't understand why. I said this on the football app. I just don't understand why they waited to make this move. If you guys don't know who Nick Easterby is, he is one of the weirdest rises I have ever heard of in the NFL. He started off as like the team pasture for the Kansas City Chiefs. Then he went to New England and he was some like culture guy in New England. And then I think he had a fallout with him and Bill Belichick, which led him to Houston. And apparently him and Bill O'Brien were friends, but apparently Bill O'Brien might think he stabbed him in the back. It's kind of a weird situation when you actually kind of deep dive into it. But yeah, Nick Easterby is going to be running football operations for Houston, though, for the rest of the situation, for the rest of the year. And then Romeo Crennel will be the interim head coach. Let me just go ahead and get into these injuries. Since I'm already talking about the Texans, I'm just going to go ahead and run over their injury report for you guys. Peter Colombi, has not practiced with a hamstring. These following 6 players have been limited. Jordan Akins with an ankle and concussion, Dylan Cole with a knee, Brandon Dunn with an elbow, Buddy Howell with a hamstring, Benardic McKinney with a shoulder, and Laramie Tunsil with a shoulder. And then going up here to the Jaguars injuries, They did place one of their starting cornerbacks, DJ Hayden, on IR. Josh Allen has not practiced this week, so that'll be huge if he can't play with a knee injury. And then Will Richardson hasn't practiced. He's dealing with an illness. And then these falling players have been limited for Jacksonville. Tyler Eifert with a neck, C.J. Henderson with a shoulder, Miles Jack with an ankle, Cam Robinson with a knee, Laviska Shenault with a hamstring, Gerard Wilson with a hamstring, and Daniel Ikuale with an ankle. This game's kind of hard for me to pick, right? Because the Texans have been such a major disappointment, but at the end of the day, they did go against a pretty rough 4-game stretch to start their season. They went against some pretty good teams. I don't know how the offense will look. Tim Kelly was calling plays until Bill took it back, and I don't know, that the whole situation is weird. But yeah, so I don't know. At the end of the day, they do have Deshaun Watson, and I don't care who your head coach is. Deshaun Watson can win you games. I mean, that's why Bill O'Brien has kept his job since they drafted him, is because Deshaun Watson will win you games. And then we always see this thing in the past where when a team fires a head coach, the interim head coach can get the team fired up to win the game. So I'm kind of actually leaning towards the Texans, because here's the thing. The Texans defense, they got some young nucleus of great players, but there are a lot of holes in that defense. I think I did not look at the last game stat-wise for the Jacksonville Jaguars, but I know in the first 3 games, there was not a quarterback that had less than a 75% completion percentage against them. And then they just placed DJ Hayden on IR. CJ Henderson's banged up. So I think Deshaun Watson's going to go off against this Jacksonville defense. Now that he's free from Bill O'Brien, I think you're going to see a great Deshaun Watson game on Sunday. And also, too, you look at the Jaguars defense. Not only they're banged up, then you switch to the offense. Tyler Eifert's hurt. Laviska Shenault's banged up. Cam Robinson's banged up. And they might be missing Josh Allen on the defense. So I know people were like hype on Gardner after week 1. It's kind of coming to an end as we go on the season. I think this is his last time that he can maybe bounce back. He will be the starter for the rest of the year, but if he wants to maybe hold on to this position, make the teams think twice about drafting a quarterback in the upcoming draft class, he needs to start putting together a string of consistent good performances. And he could possibly do that because the Texans defense it's still bad, right? They really don't got a secondary. J.J. Watt is an older veteran player. Their linebacker core, it's all right. It's good. It's above average, with Zach Cunningham. So I think they got enough to take on this Jaguars offense. I will say this, the Jaguars offense will have their moments throughout the day where they get the touchdowns. I think these two teams are so bad, it's going to be like a shootout type of game because either defense isn't that great. At the end of the day, when it's a shootout type of matchup, when it's kind of like this type of game, I'm always going to go with a better quarterback. So I am going to take Deshaun Watson to get the Houston Texans their first win on the season. I think they win a shootout. They win like a 35-31 type of game for Houston. And I'm going to keep it moving, guys. Cincinnati is traveling out to Baltimore to face the Ravens. Here's a little interesting news note. Maybe a potential trade candidate, in my opinion. I did not know this until I did my research last night for the show, but Carlos Dunlap, he's been a longtime defensive end for the Bengals since they drafted him in 2010, and he has basically been benched. He has been moved down to a third down role. He is no longer the starter, and this past week he was very upset over the move, and he made that known to the media that he is very upset that he's now benched. Now, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I haven't pulled up Carlos Dunlap tape in the first 4 games to tell you that his play has dropping off. But with that being said, when a veteran is being that vocal to the media, you really don't want that in the locker room. So if I'm a team like the Seattle Seahawks that has no pass rush right now, and you need as much help as you can get in the pass rush role, I think the Seattle Seahawks should call the Cincinnati Bengals and see what it would take to get Carlos Dunlap on their roster. And if I'm not even the Seattle Seahawks, if I'm a team that is lacking pass rush, if he's just going to be rushing the passer for the Bengals on third downs, and I really don't have much players at that position, maybe he could be a guy that you can pull off a roster. So I'm just making I guess I don't know if it's not really a hot take. I guess it's more of a bold, not even a bold prediction. I'm just making a prediction that I do think Carlos Dunlap could be on the trade block as we head towards the trade deadline, which I don't even know when that is this year. I need to look that up before next week's episode. Another news note, the Baltimore Ravens, I know he's a 7th-round pick, but and I really don't cover much of when players get released at the bottom end of the roster, but if they're from this past draft class, I'll always bring it up. But their 7th-round pick from the 2020 draft, Geno Stone, has been waived by Baltimore.
All right. I did get that date for you. Looks like the trade deadline's October 29th.
So what is that? What's today's date, Rob?
October 9th. You got about 3 weeks,
20 days. Yeah, so hey, that's something to watch. I mean, I've been kind of throwing out my predictions on guys that could be potentially moved between then. So maybe, like I said, I think Dunlap is a potential guy that can be moved. And thank you for doing that, Rob. Let me go ahead and get into these injuries, guys. Bill's side, John Ross has not practiced. He is dealing with an illness. And then these following players have been limited for Cincinnati. Alexander with a hamstring, Geno Atkins with a shoulder, Jonah Williams with a shoulder, Marcus Bailey with a neck, and Joe Mixon with a shin injury. Now let's go to the Baltimore one. He's expected to play, but obviously to keep a watch on as we head towards Sunday. Lamar Jackson, he has not practiced this week with a knee and a Tyree Phillips also hasn't practiced with a shoulder injury. And then these guys are Baltimore's, man, they got some pretty guys that are crucial guys to this team. Nick Boyle these guys have been limited. Nick Boyle with a thigh, Marcus Peters with a knee, Anthony Levine with an abdomen, Chris Moore with a thigh and finger, Ronnie Stanley with a shoulder and hip, and Mark Andrews with a thigh. Now, I am going to preview this game with the expectation that Lamar is going to be playing. So with that being said, as long as Lamar's playing and even if he's 90% of himself, Cincinnati still has a lot of work to do on that defense. They are coming along as we go, but they still lack some talent in certain areas of their defense. So I think Lamar Jackson, he's going to be able to move the ball on the ground. The Baltimore offense is going to be able to move the ball on the ground against the Cincinnati rush defense that is not that great. So I think they're going to find ways to put up points. But again, though, I don't know how this knee injury is. I don't know if he's going to be 70% of himself, which maybe hurts. Maybe that hurts him stepping into his throws that could lead to interceptions. I'm not sure about that. I probably shouldn't even speculate on somebody's injury like that unless I'm the doctor in the room. But yeah, I think Baltimore, they had, even with a 90% Lamar Jackson, they still have a handful of running backs. Assuming the tight ends play, even though they're banged up, they should be able to move the ball, nickel and dime the Bengals offense all day. And I think they have the capabilities of putting up, anywhere between 3 to 5 touchdowns on this Cincinnati Bengals defense. And you switch sides of the ball, man. Joe Burrow got his first win last week. He continues to impress every week. He continues to show his poise, his moxie, his ability to stretch out plays and make the right reads. And now he knows not to take hits. I don't know if anybody saw the mic'd up Joe Burrow from this past week, but he kind of made an awkward slide, and like the opposing team was like laughing at him. He's like, "Hey, I ain't letting you guys hit me like you did last week." So he understands he has to protect himself. I love seeing that out of Joe Burrow. And I'll say this. Marcus Peters is pretty banged up. Jimmy Smith's banged up. They're going to struggle they're going to struggle to run the ball, right? Even probably protecting Joe Burrow, because that offensive line, it's awful still. The Baltimore defensive front is great. Calais Campbell's going to get after him. Matthew Judon's going to get after him. But maybe there are some moments if Joe Burrow can find some holes in the defense. But I just think this offensive line will hold back the Bengals offense from getting into the end zone. I think it's more of like they'll maybe have opportunities to move the ball on drives, but they're going to have to settle for field goals. I do think Baltimore should, barring Lamar Jackson not playing, Baltimore Ravens should easily win this game against the Cincinnati Bengals. I think they should be able to win by 10 points. They should be let's just say the offense maybe has some struggles because of the injuries. They win like I don't know, like a 24-14 type of win for Baltimore. And then let's just keep this moving. We got Carolina going to Atlanta to face the Falcons. One little thing to note, the guy I brought up earlier, AJ Terrell, the guy that tested positive earlier in the season, right before game day, he has been activated. So he's now back on the roster for Atlanta. So that should help out their secondary. Let's start with the injuries, though. Since I already brought up the Falcons, I'm gonna stick on their injury report. It's pretty long for the Falcons. Julio Jones has not practiced with a hamstring. Jalen Hawkins has not practiced with a concussion. And then these following players have been limited for the Atlanta team. Keanu Neal with a hamstring, Calvin Ridley with a thigh and knee, Ricardo Allen with an elbow, Marlon Davidson with a knee, Grady Jarrett with a hip, and Tack McKinley with a groin. So they're really banged up on that defense. And then you go to the Panthers side of the ball. Eli Apple has not practiced this week with a hamstring, and Chris Manhertz, he's been limited with an ankle. How's the game's going to go? Let's start with the Panthers, man. That offense has been looking pretty solid with Teddy Bridgewater leading the way. They got a handful of weapons that they can attack you through the passing, through the air, and then they also, even though they're without Christian McCaffrey, Mike Davis has done a pretty good job filling in for his role. This team has what it takes to move the ball. And then Atlanta's defense, not only has it been awful this year, but they're missing players. I just went over a handful of guys that are key pieces to the defense that are banged up heading into this matchup. So I think Carolina is going to move the ball pretty easily against Atlanta. I think Teddy Bridgewater has the potential to have a career day against Atlanta. So I think the Panthers are going to score a lot of points against this Falcons team. Now, when you switch sides of the ball, the Panthers, they got a lot of young, fun pieces to watch on defense. They got Derek Brown, Brian Burns, Eater Gross-Matos, Shaq Thompson, Dante Jackson, Jeremy Chin. They got a number of guys. Now, this is still a young and experienced defense. So I think their defense is going to have opportunities to make plays on Sunday. But at the end of the day, the Falcons, they still got a pretty good offense, right? I mean, if Matt Ryan, let me just say this. Matt Ryan's not outdoors, so he might not play as awful as he did this past Monday night since this is a home game. So even if Julio still has to miss, he still got, Calvin will be banged up, but he's still got Calvin Ridley, Hayden Hurst, Todd Gurley's, he's still producing even though he's a shell of himself. Russell Gage, I butchered that kid's first name, but Zacchaeus, I'm not even going to try to say his first name, but Zacchaeus, they got a number of guys they could still potentially move the ball against a young Panthers offense. A young Panthers defense. So I think this could be a potential shootout if Atlanta can just be consistent on their offensive side of the ball. But I'm going to go with on this one, I'm going to lean towards what I believe is a better coach, and that is Matt Rule. We all kind of thought this was going to be a rebuild type of year, and it still probably could be a rebuild type of year. It's still young in the season, but, I mean, shoot, we just saw the Bucs lose last night. If the Saints lose to the Chargers, or even if they win, the Saints are only going to improve to a 3-2 record. So Panthers win this game, they're going to be sitting tied on top of the NFC South, which you could probably say nobody really saw that coming. So I think I'm going to pick the better coach team with Matt Rule. I think he'll have the guys ready to play. And I just think the Atlanta defense just has too many injuries, and it's going to catch up to them when you get to the third and fourth quarters of the game. So I'm going to think I'll pick the Panthers. It is an NFC South game, so I think it will be close, especially since it's in Atlanta. But I think the Panthers win like a 28-24 type of win on Sunday. So those are all the 1 p.m. slot time games. I'm going to go ahead and start diving into the 4 p.m. slot time games. I'm going to start with Miami They're going out to San Francisco to face the 49ers. There's no news on either team, so let's go ahead and dive into these injury reports. Austin Jackson has not practiced with a foot. Durham Smythe with a knee has not practiced, and Malcolm Perry hasn't practiced with an illness. And then Shaq Lawson has been limited with a shoulder injury. Now, let me go ahead and get into the 49ers, man. That seems like they're always going to have a bunch of names this year on their injury report. These following players have not practiced this week: Ezekiel Ansah with a biceps, Dante Johnson with a groin, Emmanuel Mosley with a concussion, Quan Williams with a knee and hip injury. Deebo Samuel has been dealing with an illness this week, so he hasn't practiced. Let's go with the following 4 players have been limited. Jimmy Garoppolo has been limited. I think the last I heard, signs point that he will be playing this week. Dre Greenlaw with a quadricep, Raheem Mostert with a knee. I heard he should be playing this week. And then Ahkello Witherspoon with a hamstring. How this game is going to go? I mean, man, this is an interesting game, right? Because if they get they get Jimmy Garoppolo back, even though I do hate on the kid, he does improve their chances. I know we were on that Nick Mullins train, Rob, but that kind of fell flat this past week after his performance. So Jimmy Garoppolo, he'll be able to move the ball. Deebo Samuel, I imagine he does play, so he gets a Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk. I mean, guys, George Kittle is just amazing, right? They get Raheem Mostert back. This is like a perfect bounce back game for the 49ers offense. So that's where I'm not worried, right? I'm not worried about the 49ers offense as Jimmy G plays. I think they're going to be able to move the ball against that Dolphins defense. Now, the Dolphins defense, it has improved with the season going along. Byron Jones is back to being healthy. Xavier Howard is back to being healthy. So they got their cornerbacks that can maybe slow down a Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk. I just don't know who on the Miami Dolphins can contain George Kittle. It's not going to be a Kyle Van Noy. They really don't. I don't know who they would stick. Noah I is not going to stick on him from the slot to cover him. So I think George Kittle is going to have a good day. I think they're going to run the ball pretty easily on them. Now, this is where things do get interesting, right? Because like the 49ers defense is really banged up. We already know about all the injuries to the defensive line, but then look at the cornerback group. Richard Sherman's still on IR. And then Dante Johnson, Emmanuel Mosley, Quan Williams all haven't practiced this week. Excuse me, guys. And then Ahkello Witherspoon has been limited this week with the hamstring. So there's a slight potential that Ryan Fitzpatrick, if he plays like the good Ryan Fitzpatrick, can take advantage of the injuries to the secondary, and Devontae Parker, Preston Williams, some guy named Isaiah Ford that's been playing pretty well for the Dolphins receiving room. Maybe they find ways to move the ball against the 49ers defense. But I really don't see it happening. They're traveling out to San Francisco. Austin Jackson, I know he was a much debated prospect among the Blitzathletic scouts, and he has looked pretty solid as a rookie in his first 4 games. He hasn't practiced this week, and he has been their starting left tackle. So if he is out, that means they're going to have to play with Julian Davenport. Yikes. I don't care who's the defensive end. I don't care if it doesn't matter that Nick Bosa's out. Any defensive end is going to be able to get past Julian Davenport. And that's probably why they're not rushing Tua out quite yet, because they're still wanting to fix that offensive line. So I think the 49ers do win. Maybe because of all the injuries to the defense, Miami can keep it interesting. But I think San Francisco at some point, they find a way to pull away, and then they just lean on the running game in the fourth quarter to close out the game. Let me see here. I didn't make a score prediction. Let's say, I don't know. Let's just say the Dolphins do put up points. I'll pick the 49ers to win like a weird score, like a 31-21 type of win for the 49ers. Now let's keep it moving. Let's see here. We got the New York Giants traveling out to down to Dallas to face the Cowboys. And we got the old Jason Garrett revenge game, if you want to call it that. As far as injuries heading into this matchup, the New York Giants, O'Shane Ximenez, he has not practiced with a shoulder injury. And then these three players have been limited this week. Adrian Colbert with a neck, Kyler Fackrell with a neck, Jabril Peppers with an ankle. Now, this one's going to be huge for the Cowboys. Tyron Smith, their star left tackle, he's been dealing with a neck issue, and it could potentially end his season. Now, they're already missing Lael Collins. He's done for the season. And then look at this other injury report. Joe Looney, he has not practiced with a knee injury. So you're looking at 3/5 of the starting line that entered the season that will be out. Now, with that being said, if Joe Looney can't play, my boy Tyler Biadasz from Wisconsin, he looked pretty decent last week filling in for him. So, and I still think as long as he can remain healthy, he can be a quality starting center in this league. So they do have some backups that can do a good job. Other injuries, though, for the Cowboys, Dorrance Armstrong, he's been limited with a knee, and Tyron Crawford with an ankle. Oh, man. Talk about two rough teams from the NFC East that both need wins, right? Where do I want to start? Since I already was talking about the Cowboys' offensive line issues, let's start with the offense. Even though they are dealing with issues on the offensive line with their injuries, they were dealing with those issues last week against a Myles Garrett-led defensive front. And even though Myles Garrett did get his opportunities to get his hands on Dak Prescott for some sacks in that game, the offense still put up over 450 yards and went over how many points did they get to? I think roughly around 40 points last week. So the offense has enough to put up points. They still got Ezekiel Elliott. They got the trio of wide receivers. Dalton Schultz has been a pleasant surprise from the tight end position. And then they're going against a Giants defense, which people are going to probably laugh at me, but that Giants defense is sneaky good. I keep on saying this. Like they're not like great. They're not really good. They're like right there about to be good. And they've been limiting offenses throughout the first 4 games. When you turn on the film, when you look at the stats, I mean, we saw what they did to the Rams offense last week. The Rams were held to just 1 touchdown after the Rams went off throughout the week. And Michael, sorry, Michael, I don't want to butcher your last name. He has an article coming out. He does it every week on blitzlytics.com. It's actually on the website right now. It will be posted to our social media at noon, where he reviews the rookies every week. And he talked about himself. He does grind the tape for us on the All-22 on the Giants. And he's talking about how he's even surprised how well this defense has played this year. So with that being said, though, Cowboys got enough juice. They got enough firepower. I think they're going to find enough ways to, get touchdowns. But don't be surprised if there are some times where the Cowboys offense does stall, mainly because they are dealing with all those issues up on the defensive front. Now, you switch sides of the ball. This is why the New York Giants have struggled this year, is their offense. They haven't scored a touchdown since week 1. They're missing Saquon Barkley. Their young offensive line is going through growing pains. Nobody's really stepping up from the skill position. Evan Ingram's been a disappointment. Darius Slayton, he has his games, but he's more of a boom or bust wide receiver. Golden Tate's getting up there in age. And then you got just an aging Devontae Freeman in the backfield. So that's where I think the Giants, they're going to struggle, but they might have a get-right type of game, right? Because the Dallas Cowboys, their defense has been completely awful in the first 4 weeks. There's no excuses for how they're playing. I know they're missing Leighton Vander Esch, but there's a lack of effort. I know that's a much debated topic among sports media throughout the week, is the Cowboys' effort on defense. So usually when that happens, that usually does lead to them giving more effort on Sunday. So I think, though, with that being said, I think Daniel Jones is going to look pretty good, though, against this defense. I think this is going to be a get-right type of game for the Giants offense. But I do think the Cowboys defense is going to play a slightly better than what they've looked like over the past few weeks. I'm struggling to pick a winner here for you guys. I really am, because I don't know who to pick, because I can definitely see the Giants, the Jason Garrett revenge game. But then again, is the offensive struggles because of Jason Garrett on the Giants? I think the Cowboys have more talent on offense. I'm going to go with the Cowboys on this one. I would not be surprised if the Giants win. these giant Cowboy games, this could be one of those classic. You guys remember the Eli Manning and Tony Romo matchups where it
Hey, I
kind
just going to let you know Mike McCarthy announced Tyron Smith's out for the season due to a neck injury that will require surgery next week from Adam Schefter.
Ooh, see, that's huge. That's huge for the rest of the season. But I'll say this: they're going against a Giants defense. Now, I talked them up to people, but they still lack a consistent pass rusher. They got Marcus Golden, Shane Eximius. He has not practiced this week, so they really don't have a consistent pass rusher. But Tyron Smith's so huge that your average pass rusher can get past their backup. So let me go back to the point before I was making before you can let me know the news about Tyron. I feel like this is going to be one of those classic Eli Manning, Tony Romo matchups where it's going to be a back and forth battle between the Cowboys and Giants throughout the game. And it's going to come down to who has the ball last. Cowboys are at home. I trust that they have more talent on their offense compared to the Giants' offensive talent at the skill position. So I think the Cowboys are going to find ways to get more touchdowns than the Giants. So I am going to pick the Cowboys to win. It's going to, like I said, I think it's going to come down to maybe even a field goal. I'll say the Cowboys win like a 27-24 type of win on Sunday. Now we're going to the next game. I can't, well, not just because I'm a Colts fan, guys, but I can't wait for this matchup. You got a couple of good AFC teams that are battling it out on Sunday. Indianapolis Colts are traveling to Cleveland to face the Browns. Now, I'm going to go into these injuries. Now, the Colts, if these guys can't play, it's really going to – if these are like the last people you can miss against the Cleveland Browns right now. Anthony Costanzo has not practiced this week. He's dealing with a rib injury. And then Darius Leonard has not practiced with a groin, but he did say in an interview yesterday that he doesn't really anticipate practicing this week, but he's going to do everything he can to be on the field on Sunday. And then Anthony Walker Jr. has not practiced with an ankle this week. And then TJ Carey with a hamstring has been limited. And then you go to the Brown side, they're going to be pretty banged up heading into the matchup with the Colts. These two players have not practiced this week. Tay Davis with an ankle and Larry Ogunjobi with an abdomen. And then all these guys have been limited with for the Browns. OBJ with a toe, Adrian Claiborne with a hip, Kareem Hunt with a groin, Jacob Phillips with a knee, Sheldon Richardson with a thigh, J.C. Treader with a knee, Greedy Williams with a shoulder, and Carl Joseph with a hamstring injury. Now, this game's kind of hard for me to predict, mainly because of these injuries. Like, talking about the Colts side, right? So Anthony Costanzo, if he does not play, if he gets ruled out later today with his rib injury, now that's huge because this current Colts offensive line, I don't have the exact number on top of my head, but it's very rare to see this. But the starting 5 offensive linemen have not missed a game in like the past 2 years, which is very rare to see. And if he has to miss that game, then Myles Garrett is going to get after Phillip Rivers all day. And we all know Phillip Rivers is not fast enough to run away from a Myles Garrett. So that's where the Browns defense can really feast on the Colts offense. The Colts offense, I mentioned this on the Football Happy Hour. People ask me, you think the Colts are going to be a top 5 team at the end in our power rankings after the next 4 weeks? And I said, I don't know, because this Colts offense is struggling to find an identity. The offensive line, to be honest with you, it's kind of been up and down throughout the year. And if they're missing Costanzo, that's going to hurt them to generate any type of push. I'm waiting for my Jonathan Taylor breakout game. He's been solid. I'm ready for that true breakout game from Jonathan Taylor. And then T.Y. Hilton has been inconsistent this year. We're seeing the emergence of Mo Alley Cox. So they're probably going to lean on the tight ends more in this matchup. And this Browns defense, it's solid. But look at this. Larry Ogunjobi, if he can't play, that hurts them. Jacob Phillips has been playing pretty well. Sheldon Richardson has played pretty well. They're still waiting to get a Greedy Williams and a Carl Joseph. So they're pretty banged up. So the Colts can take advantage of that. And then they're going to be able to find ways to move the ball, get field goals, and get touchdowns on the board. Now, you flip sides of the ball. That Browns offense has scored 30-plus points in the last 3 weeks. Their offensive line is playing like a top 5 offensive line in the NFL right now. They are going to be missing Nick Chubb. He's out for the next 6 weeks with a sprained MCL. But they still got Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt, I know I did talk about him. He's dealing with a groin injury, but he was dealing with that last week, and he went completely off. And it didn't really matter who the running back was against that Cowboys defense last week. But this Browns offense is going against statistically the best defense in the NFL from the Colts. But with that being said, if Darius Leonard and Anthony Walker Jr. cannot play, that really hurts them. Now, the Colts have a great defensive front to battle that great, the pretty good offensive line from the Cleveland Browns. But that's where I get worried is if Kareem Hunt can get past that first level of the defense, who's going to be that guy? Now, my number one prospect for the prospect encyclopedia for the Colts, Bobby Okereke, is expected to play. He's good enough. I'll say this. As people, I personally think the Darius Leonard and Anthony Walker, if they are ruled out at any point by Sunday, that's going to hurt the Colts defense, mainly in the coverage. But I'll say this: I wrote the Colts section for the Prospect Encyclopedia. There are about 4 or 5 linebackers that made that list. EJ Speed, he's a guy to watch in case Darius Leonard and Anthony Walker can't play. He has enough speed to be a sideline to sideline linebacker and take advantage of that defensive front in front of them. So I think they can contain the rushing attack of the Browns offense, but I think there will be moments if those 2 linebackers are out where they get chunk plays with Kareem Hunt. I think the battle to watch, though, is the secondary versus OBJ and Jarvis Landry. That's going to be the one to see what happens if Baker Mayfield can move the ball through the air. Let's go ahead and get to this prediction, though. I think it's a back-and-forth AFC battle. I think it's going to come down to who has the ball last in the fourth quarter. I think you're going to see flashes from the Browns offense. I think you're going to see flashes from the Colts defense. You know what actually might not be who has the ball last, now that it just hit me. This might be who wins the turnover battle. I think that's what it's going to come down to. Who has the most forced turnovers at the end of the day will win this game. I'm going to go ahead and say that. But I do think it does come down to the end. It maybe does come down to who has the ball last. Oh, man. So hard to pick because you guys already know I want to lean towards the Colts, right? The Browns are hot, but so is the Colts defense. But these injuries for the Colts, they really do scare me. I'll say this. If Costanzo, Darius Leonard, and Anthony Walker all do miss this game, I slightly lean towards the Browns winning. But for some reason, I think maybe Anthony Costanzo will just take a shot to the rib and he'll just battle through it. I know Leonard's going to push to get out there. And like I said, I think the Colts have one of the deeper linebacker rooms in the NFL if those guys do have to miss. I'm going to pick the Colts. And like I said, if those 3 players miss, I think the Browns do win. I am going to pick the Colts. They went on a last-second field goal to give them a 1-point lead. I say they win like a 28-27 type of win for the Colts. That's how close I think it's going to be. If the Browns win, I'm not going to be surprised. I'm going to go ahead and move into the Sunday night matchup. We got the Minnesota Vikings traveling out to Seattle to face the Seahawks. Let's start with the injuries. I'm going to start with the Minnesota side since Seattle is still really banged up. But Minnesota might be missing their key linebacker, Eric Kendricks. He has not practiced this week with a foot injury. KJ Osborne, he has not practiced with a hamstring, as well as Holton Hill with a foot. And then Chris Boyd has been limited with a hamstring, and Oli Udo, he has been limited with a finger injury. Now, oh man, this Seahawks team is really banged up. First of all, Jamal Adams, he was already ruled out by Pete Carroll on Wednesday, so he's not playing. These 3 players have not practiced. Nico Thorpe with the hip, Lano Hill with the back, Jordan Brooks with a knee. And then this laundry list of players have been limited for Seattle. Dwayne Brown with a knee, Quentin Dunbar with a knee, Will Disley with an Achilles, Shaquille Griffin with a shoulder, Carlos Hyde with a shoulder, Mike Ayupati with a knee, Benson Mayowa with a groin, Cody Barton with a quadriceps, and Bobby Wagner with a rib injury. So this Seattle defense is really banged up, and they've been very bad this year. That's why Russell Wilson is the MVP to me, is because he is carrying this team to victories with his arm. Since I brought up Russell Wilson's name, let's start there. Russell Wilson's going off. DK Metcalf is making play after play. Tyler Lockett's a reliable guy. It doesn't matter if it's a Chris Carson, a Carlos Hyde, a DJ Dallas. They're going to be able to move the ball on the ground because there's so much attention to Russell Wilson in the passing attack right now. Greg Olsen is slowly finding his role in that Seattle offense, and it really doesn't matter who's protecting Russell Wilson because of his mobility. Now you go to the Vikings defense, has been a very disappointment this year, but Yannick Ngakoue has impressed over the last few weeks. I think he has had a strip sack in the last 2 or 3 games for the Minnesota defense. But if Eric Kendricks has to miss this game with the injury, if he gets ruled out today, that's a huge loss for their defense because he's one of the best, better coverage linebackers in the NFL. And then their secondary is still trying to come along. They're still going through their growing pains. I did not see my boy Mike Hughes. It looks like he is back healthy from his neck injury. So that should help out their secondary. But they're going to have up I think their defense is going to have their moments where they let up the big plays, the passing attack by Seattle. I think Seattle can put up 4 touchdowns against this average Vikings defense. But if Yannick Ngakoue can take advantage of the banged up offensive line of Seattle, then maybe he can be the game changer and give Minnesota a great chance. Because I think Minnesota does have a chance to pull off the upset. And the reason why is because of that defense from Seattle. They don't have a pass rush like I was talking about earlier, which is why I think they should inquire to Cincinnati about Carlos Dunlap. They don't have a pass rush. Their linebackers, Bobby Wagner, Jordan Brooks, banged up. Their secondary, I think their secondary's got pieces, but Jamal Adams banged up. Nico Thorpe banged up. Lano Hill banged up. Quentin Dunbar banged up. Shaquille Griffin banged up. I mean, that's like their whole secondary right there. And they already lost Marquise Blair for the season. So I think Kirk Cousins is going to be able to put up the ball through the air and put up points. I think he's going to be able to get the ball to Thielen. I think he's going to get the ball to the rookie Justin Jefferson. And then if the linebackers are pretty banged up, I think guys like Kyle Rudolph, and maybe we see Irv Smith Jr., a guy I was a fan of this past summer, I think he could even emerge this game. Now, the thing with the Minnesota Vikings is they have a very bad interior of their offensive line. And we all know Kirk Cousins struggles if there's pressure. But if Seattle struggles to get pressure, then I think that's a win for the Vikings. I think Kirk Cousins is going to have time to scan the field. So I really do. I think this is going to be a shootout type of matchup. I think it's going to be a back and forth. I think Minnesota will have a chance to win the game in the fourth quarter. But like I talked about that Houston matchup, I'm going to go with the quarterback, the better quarterback. I'm going to go with the MVP candidate, Russell Wilson. I say he has a ball at the end of the game, and he has to march them down to score a touchdown to win. I'm going to pick the Seahawks to win like a 38-35 type of win for Seattle. But don't be surprised if the Vikings pull off that upset on the Sunday night. Let me go ahead. So for those that don't know, if you're probably wondering, did Cody make a mistake like he did in that 1 week and not talk about a couple games? Well, for those that don't know, there's been some schedule changes because of the pandemic. Denver and New England, that game has been shifted to Monday night. We once again have a Monday night doubleheader. And that game, for those that don't know, I believe it will be played on ESPN if I remember right. And that game is going to start at 5 p.m. Eastern on Monday. So if you're not one of the people that are remote workers and you have to go to work, you might have to see if you can either head home early if you want to catch the game, or see if your boss doesn't mind if you pull up the game on your phone, since we now have apps that we can watch watch these games live. By the way, for those that don't know, just download the NFL app and they pretty much they always stream some type of game on your phone that you can watch. Or if you're like me, you pay for a streaming service, you can watch the game on your phone if you happen to be out and about or you happen to be working. So let me go ahead. And then Stephon Gilmore, for those that missed, he's the reason why this game has been pushed back. He has been placed on the list, so he's on that list with Cam Newton. But one of the advantages, though, is with this game being pushed back, if Cam Newton passes those two tests, we might see him out there on Monday night. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into these injury reports. These following players have not practiced for Denver. Jeremy Atachu with a quadricep, Noah Fant with an ankle, KJ Hamler with a hamstring, and Mike Purcell with a knee. And then these following three players have been limited. Drew Lock with a shoulder, that's a positive sign, and he gets an extra day to get healthy. Levante Bellamy with a knee, and then Joe Jones with a knee injury. And it did sound like, I'll go ahead and say this, it did sound like Drew Lock was going to play this Sunday regardless. So that's a good sign that he has another day to let that shoulder rest. And I as of right now, unless something comes out over the next 2 days, I do anticipate Drew Lock will play, assuming this game goes on as scheduled. There were no positive tests for the Patriots or even the Titans, the team I'll talk about here at the end of the episode. And then as far as the Patriots, though, these four players have been limited this week. Adam Butler with a shoulder, Julian Edelman with a knee, Shaq Mason with a calf, and Isaiah Wynn with a calf. As far as this game, even though Stephon Gilmore is probably going to have to miss, unless I don't know if this whole thing with if they're asymptomatic, they passed two tests. I honestly, guys, I can't make an educated guess on if they're going to be making it back or not. So I'm going to make the prediction on this game, assuming Cam Newton and assuming Stephon Gilmore will not be playing. So that's kind of hard, right? So with that, let's just talk about it, right? Now, you can point to Patriots didn't really I don't remember the practice situation from last week, but I think they didn't get much practice. They had to travel the day of the game. So you could point to that as why a Brian Hoyer, and even though Jared Stidham had that touchdown, he still had few mistakes on Monday night. So, and that's another thing. I don't know who's going to be the starter. Like, there has been no type of announcement as far as if it's going to say Cam is out. We don't know if it's going to be a Brian Hoyer or a Jared Stidham. So, but with that being said, Denver, they're really banged up on the defense side of the ball. I know a lot of guys are on IR or their seasons have been done. So I think even if a Brian Hoyer or a Jared Stidham leads this offense, I think they're going to be able to pound the rock with a Damian Harris, Rex Burkhead, and a James White. I think they'll be able to nickel and dime this Broncos defense to get points on the board. And you switch sides of the ball, even with Drew Lock back, Noah Fant, I think, is expected to miss this week. And then so he'll just have a Jerry Jeudy. Tim Patrick did show some flashes in the Broncos last game. He had a pretty solid overall game. And then they still got Melvin Gordon, and then Phillip Lindsay is expected to be back. But at the end of the day, man, we just saw a banged up or a shortened week, day of travel defense from Bill Belichick slow down a Patrick Mahomes offense with all their healthy weapons. So I think this Patriots defense has enough to handle the Broncos offense, even if Drew Lock is the starter. Again, this is Drew Lock coming back after a couple weeks with a shoulder injury, he might be less than 100%. So I'm going to go with the Patriots defense taking advantage of that. The defensive line is not that great. I think there's some sacks. I think there's some turnover potential by that Broncos offense. So while they might be able to put up points throughout the day, I think there will be some stutter opportunities. I think actually, you know what? This is probably going to be a low-scoring affair by both teams. I'm going to go with the better coach and Bill Belichick to find a way to win this game. I think the Patriots win like a what would be a 17-13 type of win? That's a low scoring, weird score for you guys. I take New England in a 17-13 win. Now let's go to the second game. The Los Angeles Chargers are traveling out to the Saints. Now, I know there's that potential hurricane that's going to happen then down there in the coast, or I'm actually in the coast, but I don't think it's going to affect me here in Tampa. But there was potential talk that this game could be moved to Indianapolis to play at the Colts home facility. But when I did my research into that last night, it sounds like they do plan on playing this game in New Orleans. And then let's go ahead with the news note. Justin Herbert, he has officially been named the starter going forward. We all know it was coming. You can't tell me you watched Justin Herbert from the past 3 weeks and you would want to go back to Tyrod Taylor, even though Tyrod Taylor is the most unfortunate, unlucky quarterback probably in the NFL history. But yeah, let's go ahead and dive into these injury reports. Los Angeles, they're pretty banged up heading into this matchup. Joey Bosa has not practiced with a tricep and knee injury. Brian Bulaga with a back injury. Now, I know everybody knows Austin Eckler is out for 4 to 6 weeks. I put this in the script for the reason. He's been listed as a DNP this week. And I've had a lot of friends message me. I think we had some people on our Blitzalytics Slack channel even ask about it, why he has not been placed on IR. People, for any fantasy owners, he's going to be placed on IR. Just understand, like, if teams don't place him on IR, it's because they have to construct the game day roster. They have to figure out who they want to call up from the practice squad. So, for example, Michael Pittman Jr. was like announced on Monday or Tuesday last week that he was going to be out to at least week 8, but the Colts didn't place him on IR until Saturday before the game. So he's going to be placed on IR. He's not going to be a quick return, guys. I imagine Eckler will be placed on IR either Saturday or Sunday. It will be done by game day because they're just trying to figure out. Because, like, look at all these injuries I'm talking about. They're trying to figure out who's going to be active come Monday. And then I still have some names I need to talk about for the Chargers. Trey Turner has not practiced as well with a groin injury. Mike Williams has not practiced with a hamstring injury. And then Tyrod Taylor, he has been limited with a ribs and chest injury. And I'm going to move over to the Saints injury report. This week, Janoris Jenkins has not practiced with a shoulder. Deontay Harris with a hamstring injury, and then Justin Hardy with a hamstring. Yeah, and then these following players, a lot of players have been limited for the Saints this week. Jared Cook with a groin injury. Marcus Davenport with a toe, Trey Hendrickson with a groin, Malcolm Jenkins with a knee, Marshawn Lattimore with a hamstring, Andrews Piet with an ankle, Ryan Ramczyk with a concussion, and Michael Thomas with an ankle. Now, as far as how this game's going to go, it's like both teams got some crucial injuries to their team. But, with that being said, even if the Chargers are out Brian Bulaga and Trey Turner, I mean, shoot, they were out those two guys when they went against the Bucs last week, and they were able to move the ball and put up points against that defense. And then you look at the Saints defense. Janoris Jenkins hasn't practiced this week. Davenport, he's been limited for the last 3 weeks, but I don't think he's even been active on game day yet. And Malcolm Jenkins is banged up, as well as Marshawn Lattimore and on the defensive side of the ball. So with that being said, though, this is how I view this is I think Justin Herbert, he's going to be able to move the ball against the Saints defense. I think he will find opportunities to put up points against them. But I do think there's going to be opportunities for the Saints defense because at the end of the day, he is a rookie quarterback, so he is prone to making mistakes, as we saw in that last drive against Tampa when he threw the interception. So I think there's going to be opportunities for them to create turnovers. I'll say this. I would not be surprised if he goes off against the Saints defense, which has been suspect this year to be to let up big plays and big points. And when you switch sides of the ball, though, Joey Bosa has not practiced this week, and Melvin Ingram's currently on the IR. Chris Harris is on the IR. So I think the Saints offense can be able to move the ball with Alvin Kamara, with Latavius Murray on the ground. I think Michael Thomas should be making his return this week as well. So if he is in the lineup, that makes a huge difference for Drew Brees. So I think the Saints, and then here's the weird thing too. The Saints are not only at home, but they play really good on Monday night football games when they are at home. I know the crowd's not going to be there, but I just think with it being a home game, it's the Saints. I know, like what Las Vegas, but that was away. That was in Las Vegas. That's right. So I can't even reference that poor performance by New Orleans. So with it being at home, it's a Monday night game. Drew Brees, technically, if you look at the record and all that, he plays really good at home on Monday nights. So I'm gonna go with the Saints. But I think because of all these injuries to the Saints defense, I think the Chargers keep it interesting. But I think the Saints will pull away. I think I think it will end up being one of those games where the score looks like they blew out the Chargers, but the Chargers had an opportunity to potentially win this game, and they might end up winning. Who knows? But I will take the Saints. They'll win by like at least a touchdown, right? I think they win like a 31-24 type of win for the Saints. And then I'm gonna move into. If you guys hear that right now, somebody's pressure washing outside my apartment at the worst time right now. I thought he already got that done this morning. So I am very upset hearing that right now, if you guys are as well. So let me get into this last game. I don't know if this game's going to happen, guys. Tuesday night football, right? How weird is that? This has only happened. This is the Buffalo Bills traveling to Tennessee. They pushed the game back because of all the tests. Like I told you guys, I'm not going to deep dive into that because everybody's probably nauseated with that, with what's going on in the Tennessee organization right now. But they are traveling out to Buffalo is traveling to Tennessee. Now, for those that are curious, this is the third time the NFL has played. If this game does happen, this will be the third time that the NFL plays a game on a Tuesday night. The first game was like in like 1960 something, and the last game was like a Joe Webb Vikings team earlier in this past decade. And then this is all based on no more positive tests from Tennessee. So from what I understand, if there's just one more positive test from Tennessee, I think this game will be postponed. I don't think it'll be outright canceled because I keep on talking about the NFL has allotted hotels here in Tampa for a month past the current Super Bowl date. So I think the NFL is prepared to add those phantom weeks at the end of the season if they need to. And then also, too, for those that are keeping track, Buffalo was traveled to face the Chiefs on Thursday Night Football. That game has been moved to next Sunday. I did not see the time as far as what time that game will be played on Sunday. But if Tennessee does have positive tests, that game will revert back to Thursday Night Football. Again, I brought it up earlier. There were no positive tests from Tennessee this morning, but we'll have to see as we go over the next few days. As far as the injury report, though, on this, Levi Wallace has been placed on IR for the Bills. Now, this is it kind of sucks for the Bills, right? Because they'll have to play on a Tuesday, then turn around and play on a Sunday. But when you look at their injury report, it might be actually a sneaky positive if they can get some of these guys back. Tre'Davious White has not practiced with a back, Matt Milano with a pec, Andre Roberts with an ankle, and then Brian Winters with a knee. And then we have these following three players have been limited this week: John Brown with a calf, Zach Moss with a toe, and Cody Ford with a groin injury. And then I don't know how they can list players on the injury report, but it's just like anytime they do a walkthrough. But Titans technically are completely healthy outside the guys that are on the list. But A.J. Brown was listed as a limited practice with a knee injury. I don't know how to predict this game, guys, right? Because this game might not even happen. there's so many guys on the list for Tennessee. I don't even there's a handful of offensive guys. Jeffrey Simmons, I believe, is on the list. So they're going to be missing so many people. And they have I know they did the off-site practices, but obviously they have not done that since that happened. No early practice, guys on the list. I mean, this sets up for the Buffalo Bills to blow out the Titans, which, as an NFL fan, as a Colts fan, as a person that just wants to see the season go along and see how if the story, well, we know they practice off-site, but if the story is true that they didn't follow protocol when they are at the building, I think all NFL fans can say, you just almost blew the NFL season out of the door. We want to see your asses get kicked. I'm going to go ahead and say that. I am. I'm just going to say, I just hope the Buffalo Bills blow them out the door if this game gets played on Tuesday night. And honestly, because of all the guys being on the list and the lack of practice over the last couple weeks, I'd be very surprised if they even keep this in a game. Like I said, I can't really deep dive into this game, guys, because I don't even know if it's going to be played. I don't even know who's going to be available for Tennessee. So I don't know. Buffalo wins like a 28-10 win on Tuesday. I don't know. It's weird, guys. So that's the episode. That's all the previews. I do see we got some guys in the comments over here, Rob. And then if you got a question for me, let me just go ahead and look over this. Our boy Jay thinks Aaron Donald will get 2 sacks. I do believe that as well. And then our boy Jay says he went on. You guys can read in the comments about that. I'm going to look at the questions. Wait, those are questions. Okay. No, I won't expect 2 things.
Now, this is where he's talking about. You said that him and Roy would be arguing at a family gathering, and Jay's just being a realist. He's a real fan. He said if the Eagles play good, it'll be close, but the Steelers still win. If Eagles play bad, the Steelers going to thump them, so he's ready for an L either way.
There you go, Jay. All right, so then I'm sorry, buddy, if I mispronounced your name. Xander Plotkin, do you think Austin Eckler is good trade value or just wait his injury out? I think you actually talked about this on the voyage, didn't you, Rob? Yeah, I want to say you.
Yeah, it's a hamstring, a guy with electricity. I'm kind of like, nah, I don't know, man. I don't think he comes back to full.
Yeah, I don't think he's got trade value, but I would try. You know what I'm saying?
Like, yeah, if I can get him for pennies, let me give you my 4th running back for an Austin Eckler or something.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, because and Xander, subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't yet, and then go to our YouTube channel, click on the Fantasy Voyage, watch that episode, because at the beginning, me and Rob talk about Austin Eckler as far as his potential later in the year. Because me and him, I talked about how, like, if the Chargers have an opportunity to make the playoffs, I think Eckler will return sooner than later. But if the Chargers are out of the playoffs, he will return later just because they've invested money into him. They won't want to rush him back. So yeah, I think you should try to trade him if you can, but you may have to wait out his injury. And then Joseph Burston, DJ Chark or Tyler Boyd, fantasy half PPR. DJ Chark against the Texans, Boyd against the DJ Chark. Texans don't have a good pass defense. We saw DJ Chark immediately produce when he got back in the lineup last week. I know I said it before season. I love Tyler Boyd as a PPR machine in fantasy football, but they are going against the Ravens. Like I talked about, they have a great defensive front, so Joey Burrow is going to be under pressure all day. And then they still got, even if Jimmy Smith has to miss the game, they still got Marcus Peters. They still got Marlon Humphrey. They got a good secondary. So it could be a up and down day for Tyler Boyd. So I would trust DJ Chark over Tyler Boyd. And then Rob, do you have anything you want to ask?
Yeah, I've been sitting on it since you talked about Dunlap being a potential trade guy. We've seen maybe a J.J. Watt, a Dwayne Haskins, Dunlap. I think we could see an interesting trade deadline this year in the NFL with a couple teams seeing windows that might not have originally been there. What are some other names you think you could see moved in potential landing spots for him? You got a couple off the top of your head?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of hinted at it. One is for me is Julio Jones, man. I know he's banged up, so it might be hard to move him at the moment. But the reason why this is the only reason. Now, here's the thing: he is Atlanta. Falcons fans would go irate over it, and this might not. And let's be real: this might be more of an off-season trade, right? This might be after this year is over. And 2020, we're in the 2020 season. Actually, see, I'm not the greatest cap expert. Maybe they don't move him this year. After this year, he has 3 years left on his contract. He would account for $38 million in dead money next year. So maybe that doesn't happen. Unless, again, I don't know how it works when they trade in the contracts. If teams are willing to accept the money and all that stuff. So I would just watch that, just because if Dan Quinn and the Falcons continue to lose, Dan Quinn will be fired. I really don't necessarily agree that Thomas Dimitroff should be fired, because I think he has constructed pretty good rosters over the years.
Giving him first round picks all up and down the roster.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't think he's the issue. I think he deserves an opportunity to go on with the next coach. But if they were going to blow this thing up, that could be a way they can move some money. But man, they got so much money, in dead money, invested into Matt Ryan, Julio Jones over the next couple of years. So that's a sneaky one. Another one is Zach Ertz. Now, this might change because somehow the 1, 2, and 1 Eagles are in first place. So obviously, with Dallas Goedert on the IR currently, until he comes back, you really don't want to move him. But man, Zach Ertz, even though he's been on the field, he doesn't even look like the same Zach Ertz. It seems like it's either he's not the same Zach Ertz, or the whole contract dispute is really carrying over to the field. And I don't think Philadelphia is going to offer him a contract to fix it. So I think if a team needs a tight end, I would not be surprised if Zach Ertz gets moved by the trade deadline. So those are a couple names to watch.
Real quick, where do you think a Julio or an Ertz could go? Because that would be some star power on the block right
now,
there.
Let me go ahead and say this, Rob. I do not buy into random trade rumors I find online.
Right.
But the one team that has the money, the one team that needs help at the wide receiver position, that was connected to trade rumors online, was the New England Patriots. Could you imagine Cam Newton, Julio Jones?
Yeah. And Cam lights that fire back under Julio, right? Because Julio just doesn't look like he's having fun anymore to me. It feels down, but if you watch him, he's not smiling. He's not, you know what I mean? It just feels like they're, honestly, Cody, I think everybody on the Falcons is just wanting Dan Quinn to go. And once he leaves, we'll see a reemergence. But yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he's one. I mean, I just went over to thecap.com, pulled up this year's free agents. That could be maybe.
Fuck around and give Joe Burrow a Julio and move AJ Green on and just switch out some guys. Let's do that. They
can't move AJ Green because he's on a franchise tag. That's the only thing. Otherwise, I would have thrown that out, because I'm looking at his name right now. Patrick Peterson's on the last year of his contract. He's 31. He's been up and down. I know they'll keep him for now, but maybe here, if the Cardinals continue to lose for whatever reason, I doubt they lose this weekend, but if they lose, that's a name to watch. They better not trade. No, we need Ty. They can't trade him. Yeah, I mean, those are probably the names. There might be some lower end guys I'm not seeing right now that could be potentially on
I think
move,
we could see a shocker. I'm not going to be bold enough to give you a name, but it just feels like there's going to be a shock trade because it's 2020 and it has to, right? You just got something weird has to happen. So I think there's going to be at least one name who nobody was considering gets moved this year.
Yep, I agree. But yeah, other than that, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up. I just realized it's noon, so I do need to get going on with my day. Again, guys, Prospect Encyclopedia will always continue to push this throughout the year. Based on the current schedule, though, I won't be giving out a prospect player, encyclopedia player of Thursday Night Football next week. But yeah, go to blitzlytics.com/shop to order that. Always subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't, so you do know when any of our shows go live. If you ever miss a live show, you can always come back to our YouTube channel and watch it later on in the day, or you can go subscribe to our Blitzlytics podcast network. The audio version of these shows are always uploaded. Usually you'll get it the following morning or the following day, depending on when the show is recorded. But yeah, and then we're on Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, you name it. You can also find me on the Football Happy Hour every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern. Now, with this Buffalo Bills and Tennessee Titans game, if that goes unscheduled, we're going to have a conversation between me, Rob, Roy, and Jack as far as how we want to handle the upcoming week. But do stay tuned. Just subscribe to us on YouTube so you would know when we go live, if we do have that show this week. And then the Fantasy Voyage, me and Rob do that every week, Wednesday mornings around the 10 to 11 hour. And then I always have a weekly Bucks article that comes out. But of course, that was already out this week since the Bucks played last night. Other than that, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here, guys. Thank you for those that tuned in live. Thank you to those that do listen to this either on the YouTube or on our Blitzlytics podcast network. I hope you guys enjoy your weekend of football. Have a great weekend. Blitz out.
Thank you for watching Cody Talks NFL, presented by Blitzlytics.com. As always, hit that like and subscribe button, and then hit that bell notification icon to stay up to date on all things football.